Kumusta everyone? I'm Gigel Magpale.
Kumusta everyone? My name is Randa Jimena.
Kumusta everyone? I am Elia Andures.
You're
Be
ready
ready
to
to
listen
listen
and
and
learn
learn
as
as we
we
tackle
tackle
the
about the
World
World
Heritage
Heritage
Sites
Sites
of
in
South
South
and
and
East
East Asia.
Asia.
Historic Mosque City of Bagrahat, Bangladesh. Situated at the meeting point of the Ganges and Brahmaputra rivers, this ancient city, formerly known as Kalifatabad, was founded by the Turkish general Ulu Khan Jahan in 15th century. Its infrastructure reveals considerable technical skill and an exceptional number of mosques and early Islamic monuments built of bricks. Ruins of the Buddhist Vihara at Paharpur, Bangladesh. Somapura Mahavira, or the Great Monastery, was a renowned intellectual center until the 12th century. Its layout perfectly adapted to its religious function. This monastery city represents a unique artistic achievement. With its simple, harmonious lines and its profusion of carved decoration, it influenced Buddhist architecture as far away as Cambodia. Angkor, Cambodia, is one of the most important archaeological sites in Southeast Asia. Angkor Archaeological Park is 400 kilometers squared in size and contains the magnificent remains of the different capitals of the Khmer Empire from the 9th to 15th century. They include the famous Temple of Angkor Wat and the Bayon Temple with its countless sculptural decorations. UNESCO has set up a wide-ranging program to safeguard the symbolic site and its surroundings. Temple of Privihir, Cambodia. This temple is dedicated to Shiva. It is composed of a series of sanctuaries linked by a system of pavements and staircases over an 800-meter-long axis and dates back to the first half of the 11th century. This site is particularly well preserved, mainly due to its remote location. The site is exceptional for the quality of its architecture, which is adapted to the natural environment and the religious function of the temple, as well as for the exceptional quality of its carved stone ornamentation. Agra Fort, India. Stands near Taj Mahal is a 16th century Mughal monument known as the Red Fort of Agra. This powerful fortress of red sandstone encompasses within its 2.5-kilometer long enclosure walls. It comprises many fairy tale palaces such as the Jahangir Palace and the Khas Mahal built by Shah Jahan, audience halls such as the Diwan-e-Khas and the two very beautiful mosques. Elephanta Caves, India. The city of caves on an island in the Sea of Oman, close to Mumbai, contains a collection of rock art linked to the cult of Shiva. Here, Indian art has found one of its most perfect expressions, particularly the huge high reliefs in the main cave. Taj Mahal, India. An immense mausoleum of white marble built in Agra between 1631 and 1648 by order of the Mughal Emperor Shah Jahan in memory of his favorite wife. The Taj Mahal is the jewel of Muslim art in India and one of the universally admired masterpieces in the world's heritage. Borobudur Temple Compounds, Indonesia. A famous Buddhist temple dating from the 8th and 9th centuries. It was built in 3 tiers, a pyramidal base with 5 concentric square terraces, the trunk of a cone with 3 circular platforms, and at the top, a monumental stupa. The walls and balustrades are decorated with fine low reliefs, covering a total surface area of 2,500 miles squared. Around the circular platforms are 72 open-work stupas, which containing a statue of the Buddha. The monument was restored with UNESCO's help in the 1970s.
Prambanan Temple Compounds, Indonesia. Built in the 10th century, This is the largest temple compound dedicated to Shiva in Indonesia. Rising above the center of the last of these concentric spheres are three temples decorated with reliefs illustrating the epic of the Ramayana, dedicated to the three great Hindu divinities, which is Shiva, Vishnu, and Brahma, and three temples dedicated to the animals who serve them. Ombilin Coal Mining Heritage of Sawalunto, Indonesia. Built for the extraction, processing, and transport of high-quality coal in an inaccessible region of Sumatra, this industrial site was developed by the Netherlands East Indies government in the globally important period of industrialization from the late 19th to the beginning of 20th century. The workforce was recruited from the local Minangkabau people and supplemented by Javanese and Chinese contract workers, and convict laborers from Dutch-controlled areas. It comprises the mining site and company town, coal storage facilities at the port of Emma Haven, and the railway network linking the mines up to the coastal facilities. The Umbilin Coal Mining Heritage was built as an integrated system that enabled the efficient deep bore extraction, processing, transport, and shipment of coal. It is also an outstanding testimony of exchange and fusion between local knowledge and practices and European technology. Town of Luang Prabang, Lao People's Democratic Republic. Luang Prabang is an outstanding example of the fusion of traditional architecture and Lao urban structures with those built by the European colonial authorities in the 19th and 20th century. Its unique, remarkably well-preserved townscape illustrates a key stage in the blending of these two distinct cultural traditions. Melaka and Georgetown, historic cities of the Straits of Malacca. Melaka and Georgetown, historic cities of the Straits of Malacca, have developed over 500 years of trading and cultural exchanges between East and West in the Straits of Malacca. The influences of Asia and Europe have endowed the towns with a specific multicultural heritage that is both tangible and intangible. With its government buildings, churches, squares, and fortifications, Malacca demonstrates the early stages of history originating in the 15th century, Malay Sultanate, and the Portuguese and Dutch periods beginning in the early 16th century. Featuring residential and commercial buildings, Georgetown represent the British era from the end of the 18th century. The two towns constitute a unique architectural and cultural townscape with parallel anywhere in East and Southeast Asia. Bagan, Myanmar. Lying on a bend of the Ayeyarwady River in the central plain of Myanmar, Bagan is a sacred landscape featuring an exceptional range of Buddhist art and architecture. The 7 components of the serial property include numerous temples, stupas, monasteries, and places of pilgrimage, as well as archaeological remains, frescoes, and sculptures. The property bears spectacular testimony to the peak of Bagan civilization, the 11th and 13th centuries. When the site was the capital of a regional empire, this ensemble of monumental architecture reflects the strength of religious devotion of an early Buddhist empire. Kathmandu Valley, Nepal. The cultural heritage of the Kathmandu Valley is illustrated by 7 groups of monuments and buildings which display the full range of historic and artistic achievement for which the Kathmandu Valley is world famous. The 7 include the Durbar squares of Hanuman Doka in Kathmandu, Patanan Bhaktapur, the Buddhist stupas of Swayambhu and Baudhanath, and the Hindu temples of Pashupati and Canggu Narayan. Baroque churches of the Philippines. These 4 churches, the first of which was built by the Spanish in the late 16th century, are located in Manila, Santa Maria, Pawai, and Miagao. Their unique architectural style is a reinterpretation of European Baroque by Chinese and Philippine craftsmen. Historic city of Vigan. Established in the 16th century, Vigan is the best preserved example of a planned Spanish colonial town in Asia. Its architecture reflects the coming together of cultural elements from elsewhere in the Philippines, from China and from Europe, resulting in a culture and townscape that have no parallel anywhere in East and Southeast Asia.
Rice terraces of the Philippine Cordilleras. For 2,000 years, the high-rise fields of the Ifugao have followed the contours of the mountains, the fruit of knowledge handed down from one generation to the next, and expression of the sacred tradition and the delicate social balance. They have helped to create a landscape of a great beauty that expresses the harmony between humankind and the environment. Singapore Botanic Gardens, situated at the heart of city of Singapore. The site demonstrates the evolution of a British tropical colonial botanic garden that has become a modern world-class scientific institution used for both conservation and education. The cultural landscape includes a rich variety of historic features, plantings, and buildings that demonstrate the development of the garden since its creation in 1859. It has been an important center for science, research, and plant conservation, notably in connection with the cultivation of rubber plantations in Southeast Asia since 1875. Ancient city of Sigiriya, Sri Lanka. The ruins of the capital built by the Purisidal King Kasapa 477 to 495 lie on the steep slopes and at the summit of the granite peak standing some 180 meters high on the lion's rock, which dominates the jungle from all sides. A series of the galleries and staircases emerging from the mouth of the gigantic lion, constructed of bricks and plaster, provide access to the site. Historic city of Ayutthaya, Thailand. Founded in c. 1350, Ayutthaya became the second Siamese capital after Sukhothai. It was destroyed by the Burmese in 18th century. Its remains, characterized by the prong and gigantic monasteries, give an idea of its past splendor. Central sector of the Imperial Citadel of Sanglo Hanoi. The Sanglo Imperial Citadel was built in the 11th century by the Li Viet dynasty, marking the independence of the Dai Viet. It was constructed on the remains of a Chinese fortress dating from the 7th century, on drained land reclaimed from the Red River Delta in Hanoi. It was the center of regional political power for almost 13 centuries without interruption. The Imperial Citadel buildings and the remains in the 18 Wengju archaeological site reflect a unique Southeast Asian culture specific to the lower Red River Valley, at the crossroads between influences coming from China in the north and the ancient kingdom of Champa in the south. Sydney Opera House. Inaugurated in 1973, the Sydney Opera House is a great architectural work of the 20th century that brings together multiple strands of creativity and innovation in both architectural form and structural design. A great urban sculpture is set in a remarkable waterscape at the tip of peninsula. Projecting into Sydney Harbour, the building has had an enduring influence of architecture. The Sydney Opera House comprises three groups of interlocking vaulted shells which roof two main performance halls and a restaurant. These shell structures are set upon a vast platform and are surrounded by terrace areas that function as pedestrian concourses. In 1957, when the project of the Sydney Opera House was awarded by an international jury to Danish architecture John Utzon, it marked a radically new approach to construction. Royal Exhibition Building and Carlton Gardens, Australia. The Royal Exhibition Building and its surrounding Carlton Gardens were designed for the Great International Exhibitions of 1880 and 1888 in Melbourne. The building and the grounds were designed by Joseph Reed. The building is constructed of brick and timber, steel and slate. It combines elements from the Byzantine, Romanesque, Lombardic, and Italian Renaissance styles. The property is typical of the international exhibition movement, which saw over 50 exhibitions staged between 1851 and 1915, in venues including Paris, New York, Vienna, Calcutta, Kingston, and Santiago. All share the common theme and aims to chart material and moral progress through display of industry from all nations.